When the world is focused on looking good, we believe that doing good is more important than looking good. I have been greatly inspired by the great economist and author of the seminal book Small is Beautiful. Quoting him, we must do what we conceive is the right thing to do and not bother our heads or burden our souls with whether we are going to be successful or not. Because if we don't do the right thing, we'll be doing the wrong thing, and in the whole process, we'll be just part of the disease and not part of the cure.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to joining in the world of Hemant Chaudhary today. We will have an interview with Mr. Chaudhary about who he is, what he did to achieve for the many great things, and how he experienced that for himself, and what his mission is and message to the rest of the world to continue his legacy, actually, because that's how I see Mr. Chaudhary. Hemant, I will put you into the screen and welcome. I will also jump out of the screen because the screen is all yours.
Thank you very much, Demi, and again, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this this talk series. Look, after maybe 3 decades of working in the field of environment, sustainability, circular economy, climate change, I say that the more I do things, the more I learn things, the more I understand how little I know.
Yeah.
And so I look at myself as very much a lifelong student.
Mm-hmm.
Who is in making I guess a sincere effort, using the best of my emotional, mental faculties to make a difference.
Well, when you say it like that, can you describe yourself? Who are you? What kind of person are you? No, in general.
Look, I think I'm my profession. It's hard for me to separate my profession with who I am, because I always been deeply interested in sustainability. Had the great, I guess, privilege of growing up in India, living in a reasonably modern town. My dad was a government servant. It was a transferable job, so we moved from city to city. So I had this typical, I would say, middle class Indian upbringing, a lot of emphasis on education, and it was kind of an urban life. But the benefit I had was, during every summer vacation, that would be for 2 months, I would actually visit and spend 2 months with my uncles and my grandparents from my mother's side, and they were farmers. So I guess that that diversity of exposure and experience really helped me a lot, because I really enjoyed being part of that farmer life, and because you're very connected, you're connected to the soil, and that actually gave me a far better, I guess, grounding and a good perspective, which has always been a case in my profession, where I always held the belief that for any good thing to happen, for any change to happen, you need to get everybody on side, let them share and see the common picture, and actually have multiple perspectives understood. And that's where you drive the change. So that's been one of the great, I guess, benefits of that upbringing. So I'm very interested.
How did that, because I know farmers and workers in class is actually, they have a different mentality than thinkers and studiers, we know that. And how did that help you on your path in your career?
It helped me a lot because you get a far better um, on ground perspective. So imagine this, that my father had a four wheel like a car, which was not a common thing during growing up. It was, perhaps we had only few cars in the suburbs. It's a different India today. But imagine this, that you're having this so-called modern amenities, and then you go to a village and spend time with your on the farm. You're actually riding a bullock cart. So this whole diversity, which I think is very important, because then you really understand what's happening. And actually, one of the greatest things that happen when you work in an environment like that is that you are connected. You get connected to nature. You understand the interdependence, and also understand how much what a level of influence we can have on the environment around us, but also in return, how vulnerable and how fragile we are, and how much dependent we are on the nature around us as well. So this whole mindset, I keep on, there has been this debate going on for a long time between so-called this whole Western civilization aspect, where nature was something to be conquered and tamed, as against a core tenet of the Eastern civilization, where you were seen as an integral part of the nature. And so there was an inherent respect, appreciation, and reverence for nature. And I guess I have been exposed to both worlds, and I think a better world could be created by picking the strengths of both civilizations and both cultures.
Okay, so because I know you did a lot of things that are, yeah, I consider them great. You are very humble about it. I know that. Um, what I want to ask you is what was your change of the moment of change in your life that you decided, um, first to focus on sustainability and later to specialize yourself in circular economy? Because I know from you always say circular economy has all the aspects together. So what was that moment that you did, because you were a career tiger before, and after that suddenly you changed?
Yeah.
Can you go to that moment? Can you explain?
I think let's start. I'll answer the question there are two questions here, so let me answer them one at a time. First is the journey, or the I guess the interest in sustainability. I think a lot has to do with my childhood. When I did my education, I did my engineering, civil engineering, and then mostly everybody did, after doing civil engineering, they did structural engineering. That was a common practice as for their post graduation. It so happened that this is 1980, 88, 89, I'm talking about, long time ago, when they had this new course, master's program designed. It was called Masters in Environmental Engineering. And not many people actually even knew how to spell environment. This is going back almost 35, 40 years. So it was a new thing, but it somehow connected with me. Although a lot of that environmental engineering was water supply and sanitary engineering, as it was commonly called, but it really gave me my first entree into sustainability. And I guess there has to be a reason why you get inclined to do certain things. I always attribute that to my childhood, but also the fact that I always been fascinated with the spiritual elements of the Eastern civilization, especially growing up in India. And sustainability and spirituality were intertwined. You couldn't separate them. If you look at most of the ancient Indian texts, they're called the Vedas. They actually are so reverent and so respectful and so of nature. And this whole concept of the universal spirit that pervades uh, um, every life form was the integral part of that thought process. And so that is very aligned to sustainability in my view. What Now that's answering the first question. The second question is about what got me into circular economy. I actually got into circular economy even before the term was used, and this is I'm talking about 92, 93. Um, I started my working life with Environment Protection Authority in South Australia, and we had a program that I was in charge of. It was called the Cleaner Production Program, and the aim of the program was to actually focus on a preventative and um, more comprehensive approach towards an industrial operation with a focus on pollution prevention and reduction of waste at source, not an end of the pipe treatment focus. So it was all about how through uh, process modification, through redesigning technology and products, uh, through good management processes, through good housekeeping practices, how we can actually prevent the generation of waste, and how we can also become more efficient in terms of our energy, water, and other resources. So that was the focus. And we did 48 industry projects from 18 different industry sectors. So imagine there's food sector, there is automotive sector, there is metal finishing sector. You can imagine all these various sectors. So there were good diversity, nearly 18 sectors, 48 industries. And we did that project over 3 years. I had a budget of approximately $2 million on that project, and the aim was to provide technical and financial assistance to the industries. We after the 3 year completion of the program, we had a Center for Economic Studies, which is a think tank in university here. They did a independent evaluation of the project. What was very interesting was that for every dollar that was invested into that program, the return on investment for the participating industries was $33.2. So approximately nearly $70 million worth of economic benefits were realized because of improved efficiency, reduction of waste, energy efficiency, water efficiency, you name it. So that was almost a very, I guess, that program and the learnings of that program have stayed with me all my life, because that actually defined the way I approach sustainability. And then the term circular economy became more common, and and a lot of people have got into the field now. But I guess all my working life, then I went to mining sector from there. So from excuse me, and we did a life cycle engineering program with one of the large mines, and it was a $2 billion mine expansion, so not a small project. And again, we use the same principles. We called it life cycle engineering, but same principles. And again, there was a cumulative saving of almost $30 million per year because of, again, improved energy efficiency, water efficiency, waste reduction. So I always held this belief that we don't have in the world enough resources to deal with the problem when it has occurred. We have to focus on preventing it. And whether they are regulators, whether they are businesses, whether they are industries, whether you are practitioners, the whole focus should be on eliminating waste, preventing pollution. And that is the circular economy approach I keep on promoting through all my work. And that has always been the case. And there was a book written in the 80s called Factor 4. And the book, it was called Factor 4, Doubling Wealth, Halving Resources. And it used examples from, again, diversity of sectors. And it claimed that we can actually have, as a humanity, same standard of living, if not better quality of living, for 1/4 our resource consumption, for 1/4 our energy intensity. And guess what? This was written in the 80s or whatever, early 90s. We are quadrupled. We have gone 4 times in our resource. So we are not learning. We are not getting the message. and and we have to, whether you're a government agency looking after environmental protection, whether you are industry managing your waste and emission, if you don't take a preventative approach towards the then you are never going to get anywhere. It's not going to work.
Why not?
For the simple reason that once the problem has occurred, it is hugely expensive and time consuming to deal with it. So imagine this as a scenario. You if you allow, for example, fuel to get into water body, you allow 1 liter of hydrocarbon to get into drinking water, 1 liter of, say, petrol, to get it out and make it ready for drink again, to be fit for drinking and consumption, will cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, literally. But if you put in the right practices, and if you put in the right checks and balance, and prevent the fuel to get into the water body at the first place, it will cost you nothing. It will cost you not even a dollar to prevent it. Now, that is what has to be always the focus. Even whether you are designing a product, how you can design it for minimizing environmental damage, how you can design it for repurposing and recyclability, how you can design it using less or no hazardous chemicals. This is all part and parcel of circular economy.
Yeah, true. I heard your story for about, and what I notice is there's a lot of skepticism towards the way we practice in your answer, and can you explain it a little bit, because you tell about you were part of the industrial waste treatment and trying to create circular treatment for that, but what were the things you ran into? Because you were really skeptic in your answer. I heard it in your voice 3 times.
Sorry?
I heard 3 times in your voice you were very skeptic. Can you explain that? What is the sarcasm there?
Oh, well, you're pretty smart in perceiving, because I guess the message isn't getting across, put it this way. You look at the whole sustainability agenda and the environmental industry, even what's happening with net zero, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is very reactive. Good example. I read somewhere how I think it's pretty authentic source. Our plastic production is set to double in the next 7 years.
Yes.
Right? If that is true, then we have been talking about plastic recycling and what else and what not for the last 50 years now. So surely we are not learning our lessons, are we? I mean, as they say in a typical, very popular management term, that if you keep on doing what you've always done, you'll keep on getting what you always got.
Well, I'm gonna react on that with a little bit of my side. We all know that plastic is nothing more than a profitable way to get rid of the waste for the oil production, and they want to make it more profitable. So now the plastic is probably going to be doubled because of the consumerism will be doubled. Means also we're not actually going to hunt the solar panels because we're going to double the oil production. How do you see that? You're in my opinion an expert in global waste. So how do you see that?
Oh, look, this is getting to the core of the problem, isn't it? Core of the issue.
Yeah.
And the issue is simple, that this whole, and then we start to talk about very different things here. We talk about then a fundamental, I guess, a capitalist model, which assumes that the resources are available infinite to us. They are always there for us. And this concept of perpetual growth as well. Now in a finite world, that is madness. There's only one Earth, and so I guess all we are doing is in my view, the genie is out of the bottle. Now put it back into the bottle is going to be hard work. We know that, and sometimes those things only happen when there are catastrophic or cataclysmic events, just like what happened for a short time when COVID happened. We learned certain things about life, what is real, and and then again, once that whole issue went away, we are going back to it as if, we are again going back to our old ways. So it's going to be difficult. Um, in my view, there are a lot of angles to it. One angle is climate change, which is making people kind of take notice. The other major crisis point is going to be, which people are not really talking about, is the fact that we are going to be reaching the end of some of the resources that we take for granted, because those are finite. And then what impact it will have on our quality of life. A mobile phone takes apparently 40 elements, if I'm not wrong. Now, if some of those elements don't, what technological advancements we can do to deal with that? Okay, we will always do something. We are resourceful as human race. We are always found ways and solutions. I'm not here to be a pessimist in that regard. What I'm saying is I'm just highlighting the issue here. And the issue is this, that it goes down to, again, even fundamental things like quality of life. What is the definition of quality of life then? It goes into issues like, is the definition of quality of life changing your car every year, or changing your sofa, every 2 years, or having a holiday every 3 months, and is okay, good. But then you go to countries, which are heavily polluted. You go to some of the polluted towns and cities in India. You realize that despite all these so-called aspects of quality of life, people are not happy. People are actually struggling in terms of pollution. You can have someone having a $2 million apartment in a very affluent suburb, and still sometimes get the water delivered by tankers. There are places in India, very affluent suburbs, and they don't have access to clean water, 24/7, or even sometimes for days together. So they get water delivered by tankers. So is that quality of life? 2 million people apparently die because of respiratory diseases in India.
Yeah.
Of air pollution. Now, you could be living in the most affluent suburb, in the most affluent town, but the quality of the food, air, and water is compromised severely. And then in the whole case, your own lifestyle and your own quality of life is compromised. Is that quality of life? So those things start to really become real. And we are not doing enough debate on that. We are not actually, there's few countries, I know that Bhutan was one of the very early nations which put a very high premium on, we're not talking about GDP anymore. We are talking about gross happiness index.
Yeah, true.
And they have been quite vocal about it, and good on them. So it's going to happen. And I know the young generation is getting like that. I mean, I see the younger generation really, really concerned about environment. They believe that the previous generation have created a legacy that,
Well, I see, and I know, and I mostly agree with you, what you're saying, and I also know we have positive things, right? I mean, you made a whole area fully circular a few years ago. You led that with the team, and when that project was done, because it got a lot of attention globally, how did you feel about that? Because it's one of your pillars, right? You made almost whole city.
Look, there is obviously these changes happen. Well, another interesting thought I like to share. I read that sentence very early in my piece, and it says that change is evolutionary, not revolutionary, and change happens with time. It requires people to align. We started the journey in South Australia where from a very low base in terms of our recycling, resource recovery in an area in water and wastewater reuse and recycling, also in the energy. We started with the low base, but this state has been, the people in this state are quite resourceful, and more than that, being the driest state in the driest continent, there is always this inherent, I guess, thought process. People are like doing more with less. Uh, people actually value what they have, because the quality of the water we get in the state, because we are at the bottom end of a major river system called the Murray-Darling River system. It's not good quality water. So there is an inherent um, nature in the psyche of the people that let's do more with less, because it's not abundant. And that has been one of the reasons why the innovation happens. And so we started with the low base, but I guess the state had mature leadership. There was vision. We all worked towards that. And over 30 years, from a very low base, we currently are, we divert close to 85% waste from landfill, which is pretty significant. Also, in terms of water efficiency, uh, I think every 1 in 2 liters of our wastewater, which is storm water as well, and also wastewater, gets recycled and reused. So all our parks, gardens, open space are using recycled water. Not only that, we got suburbs, major.
The project was called 100% circular.
Yeah.
And it also became that according to the.
Yeah. So I would say, I think the 100% circular becomes a bit of a tricky thing, because nobody can ever claim to be 100% circular. I think that's a bit that's an aspirational target, not it's like zero waste. It's an aspirational target, but good to get to aspire for that. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to few key parameters like energy, so we are currently 70%, 75, more than 70% of our energy is from renewable, which is good. Does that mean that we are great or we are perfect? No, not at all. We are, but it's a journey. So that's something that we are very proud of, and that takes a lot of work in the area of policy, education, community partnership. Creating the right kind of ecosystem. So creating the right kind of market instruments. Incentives for people to do the right thing, and then also.
Yeah. We are now almost a year later after the success, right? So how is your what is your opinion about the process now in the same area? The area is called 100% circular, and the whole team got benefit from that, and titles and reputation. But what do you think? What is your honest opinion about now, a year later, without your team?
Oh, look, I think the opinion is this, that this learnings have to be shared and demonstrated, and when I say the learnings, what we have to let most of the people, jurisdiction, people who are decision makers around the world, we need to really highlight the fact that there is no silver bullet solution. So imagine this, that recycling has been talked to and promoted to death for the last 40 years, and despite having so much of education promotion, 90% of the world struggles with recycling. That majority of the. So if it was so simple, even a 8-year-old kid gets it. Recycling is easy to understand, and still we are struggling. What does that say? What it says is this, that this is not about just education. This is actually a combination of, I call it a circle of circular economy, if I have to use that word. It's a combination of good policy, good regulation and enforcement, education, so partnership with the communities, then creating the right kind of system. So you can't just inspire and educate people, but if there are no systems for them to use, then it's not going to work. Then actually creating the right kind of market mechanism, so that there is a value for the recyclables. There are people who can come in and do something with it, and then right technology as well. So the technology has to. So all these 7 or 8 parameters have to be properly brought in and worked together, not in isolation, to drive a change. Now, we started in this state with a levy on waste of $5 a ton. This is going back 93, I would say. And it was not a very popular measure at that time, because it was seen as another imposition, financial imposition. But the intention was this, that money could go into 2 things. Half of that could go towards better creating an incentive for waste minimization, and also providing some incentive programs education programs, and also half of that could go towards more better enforcement, better enforcement. And guess what? After now 30 odd years, that levy currently sits at $145 for every ton of waste going to landfill. So it creates a very strong business model. If you are imagine, first of all, also we did certainly, we banned single-use plastic. We banned single-use plastic bags in 2009. We ensured that no construction and demolition waste could go to landfill. So a lot of those policies were tightened, right? But what it does is, you are a council, you are a municipal corporation, and I come to you and said, look, Demi, it's going to cost you $145. First of all, you may not be able to even take it to landfill anymore because it is not allowed, banned. But by the way, it's going to cost you $145. I can take it from you at maybe $120 or $100 a ton, and then I'll create a product out of it, and then sell it, and that creates a business model. But my business model is already kind of secure because I'm getting this gate fee to start with. It creates an incentive. So it creates an incentive for me as a technology provider, as a solution provider, to come to you and offer that solution. It also creates an incentive for you because you might still be saving $20, $25 per ton, which is still good for you. And this is the way you create the industry and the ecosystem. Now, I don't think that is happening. What we see though is a sense of false economy, and I'll talk about this because you go to countries like India, Indonesia, which are becoming more and more affluent, as we know. If you ask people to put money towards water charges or waste and increase that levy, you'll find people are not very supportive of it because they think that it's another cost. But the same community, so imagine this, that I go to, say, the currency in India is rupiah, right? Rupees. And I go to a household and say, look, how about us charging you, say, 500 rupees per month for improving the, your water quality and better collections, to put better collection system for waste and recycling. And $500 per month is, say, $10 per month. And you'll find there'll be a level of reluctance, right? But the same people would not even understand that they could be spending minimum 5,000 to 6,000 rupees, 10 times more money, because they have to have a cleaner to clean their house twice a day because of the dust and other pollution issues. They have to still pay someone to take the waste. There are issues because of improper waste collection, sanitation, issues with hygiene, issues with mosquitoes and vermin, and they end up paying through their nose through health cost, sickness and illness. They have to put a lot of emphasis. Every household in India would normally have now a inbuilt water treatment. It's called AquaGuard or something like that, where it purifies and chlorinates the water. So yes, that is costing you money. You're putting a lot of money on personal hygiene products like sanitize. You know why? So because you're not getting your systems right. So you might be reluctant to pay $500 per month. It will cost you, $10,000 10,000 rupees per month because you're not doing the right. So this is the problem, that people are not taking a systems approach. They are just looking at.
But that we know a lot about the problems. You and me, both of us, same critical level on the things that are happening. But before we go to the closing of the questions, what can an individual person do without any involvement of the government or companies? What can a normal person? We are farmers. We believe that we can change the world in a square meter around us. So what do you think that the individuals should do to change the world around them?
Absolutely, and I think that is a very great question. And we all have what I call our sphere of influence. Okay. And we can still make a difference. So let us I look at this, I define it into three categories. I say choices we get, choices we have, and choices we make. So let's define them. Choices we get. When I grew up, the milk was delivered by the milkman, and we had our own container that was poured, and there was no packaging waste. Now I have no choice but to buy milk in milk cartons because that's what the choices I get. I don't have a choice anymore. That is given to me. I I I don't. So as an individual, I can try to influence by creating a lobby, but it requires a lot of you know lot of collective input. But the choices are given to us. Some of them we have no choice but to accept and deal with them. But the choices we have, that's interesting. We all have choices every day that we can make, based on how I go about my day-to-day life. Whether I go for a 10-minute, 10-minute, half an hour shower, or whether I go for a 4-minute shower, that's a choice I have. Whether I end up, just because I got the money, end up buying clothes every other day and then not even use them, or use them once and throw them, that's a choice I have. Um, uh, how do I order my food in a restaurant? I have a choice. What is the quantity of food I cook on a daily basis? I have a choice. There are a lot of choices I make on a daily basis about my lifestyle, which can make a big difference in terms of environment and circular economy and climate change impacts. So I think that is where we have to all focus on. That requires a lot of education, though, and understanding of what choices I can make. That's our job, to ensure that people understand that they can still make far better choices, which are going to be good for the environment. Third thing is choices we give, and that's very interesting, because if I'm a designer of a technology, am I considering the environment? Am I considering circular economy in the choice I give to the end consumer in terms of that product? So good example is there are people. Bitcoin is a good example. Bitcoin was created for what reasons? I am not a technology person, so I could be very ignorant here. But the thing is, when I read reports about Bitcoin mining, the energy consumption is now exceeding the energy consumption of countries, right? That's the energy used in Bitcoin mining, I'm told. Now who decided to give that choice, and who allowed that choice to be given? What is the logic? I mean, surely somebody should be thinking about the energy implications of this. So this is a choice that, as a regulator, just because it's a free market, just do you keep on giving those choices, which are going to cost you enormous so what is the right for someone? So there is someone walking for 4 hours to collect just enough firewood to cook a meal. So a day is gone in some parts of the world just to get enough energy to cook a meal. And on the other hand, you can have a so-called, maybe a very expensive gambling experience, and we are going to consume more energy than energy of nations. Even, for example, the way the data is, the social media is a great example of that. Now, with all these things are happening, people sharing videos and photographs and whatnot, the data centers in Europe are, I'm told, these major data centers are going to consume 5 to 6% of energy. So are those choices real, and are they right? But I don't have the answers. I'm just putting that as a question, though. Those are the choices.
The data centers are growing very fast, and it's a
Yeah.
little bit more than you said, more than 15%, and they are demanding us to lower our usage and blaming us for the CO2 emission and the climate change, and of course it's a red wire everywhere, because we make governments and we make the consumer responsible for all the waste, but nobody asks the companies who produce it to put an additional fee to clean it, their own mess. Because at home we are learned and taught that we have to clean our own mess, right? And companies don't have that
Exactly
philosophy. And to give you the last question, because we're almost at the time, Hemant, I know you are a very caring and emotional man, and you're very driven, and you are someone who's also up and top perfectionist. Everything has to be perfect. So I really appreciate also that you're here, because this was not studied. This was totally out of the blue, and that's not your style normally. What is your message to the world? What would Hemant say if he was now? We don't have, sadly, 8 billion watchers, but what if we have 8 billion viewers? What would you say to them?
Preserve or
Supreme on
perish.
you.
If I had to put it in 3 words, preserve or perish.
Can you explain that?
So what I mean is, if we don't preserve what is out there, we will perish. So the earth is a resilient living organism.
Mhm.
We are not. And so uh, when we have done an excellent job in doing the mess that we are doing, chances are that we might be gone in another, I don't know, few centuries, whatever, I don't know. Earth will regenerate. It will keep on, the nature is resilient. Look at what's happening in Chernobyl. After 50 years, the wildlife has come back. Everything is, nature regenerates itself. So we cannot sugarcoat that message. In my view, I don't think we need to be, that doesn't mean it's a negative thing. Being truthful and seeing things as they should be seen is not either negative or positive. It is just being real. And let us just deal with reality as it is. That doesn't mean one has to take a very extreme view. This is not about taking a radical extreme view about life. It's about taking a real view of life.
Yeah.
What is real? What is that matters? And that's all. So I think people are human beings. One of the great psychiatrists of the modern era, who wrote a seminal book called Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, he talks about the fact, he says he has some great quotes given to him, attributed to him. He said, if you give a person why, he will figure out the how.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great quote by Viktor Frankl. And that is what, I mean, we just need to understand why. And then the innovation, our human beings' ability to be very creative, resourceful, they will all come into play. The why has to be understood very well.
Yeah, I agree. Because we both are born, we all experienced the 80s and the 90s, where we all were fighting to create a better world. And actually, what you see, what happened from then and now, it became worse while we were there, and still care about it. So Hemant, I want to thank you for your time. It was amazing.
Yeah.
How did you experience this? Because it was for you a totally different setting. Not so formal.
I loved it, Demi, and it's always nice to be very candid, and share your views. And this is good because it allows. I like the format because this is more conversational. This is not a very structured interview, and hopefully, in the whole process, we all kind of start to think through, issues better. But no, I love the format, and I think again, congratulations to you and your team, because you're doing this. You're kind of you're getting this cross pollination of ideas and thoughts, getting people from other parts of the world. I've seen some of the speakers who are part of your talk series. They come from different countries, from different backgrounds. So I think in the whole process, you're actually building the whole understanding and knowledge. So this is
Yeah,
good.
it's more important. I usually also do presentations of all kinds of solutions, but today I wanted to, with this shows, I want to work on the mindset and the awareness, and that's only possible when you put the people behind those successes in the spotlight. Why do they do this, and what is their motivation, and how do they think? Because most of the times we think someone is special when he speaks at TEDx like Tina, or Richard, who become how do you call that, entitled by Ban Ki-moon at the United Nations, or you, who wears the newspaper for creating Australia, a state of Australia to make fully circular. Those achievements are great, of course, because that's why we do it. But what is the drive to go there? And because most of the time we think those people are special, and yes, you are, but we can be the same if we do it, and that's actually the message.
Absolutely, I think that's so right. I mean, I don't think that this should be taken as a. This should be this for me. I look at, and not just this interview, but even my other presentations. I actually like to my mindset and my thought.
Philosophy.
My mindset is simple. I like to be making it. It's more about sharing of knowledge and experience, and it's a two-way street. So I never put myself in a position where I say, look, I, you know, I'm an expert or I know everything. In fact, again, I'll quote another great philosopher, we all know of him, Aristotle. And he said that knowledge is knowing what you don't know. And I again think, anybody who has been working any field for a length of time, they should be very careful the way they see. They should always be a student, because the more you know, the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know.
True. So, Hemant, thank you for your time. I will quote also something that also aligns with you, that Mr. Einstein said one long time ago, and especially in the recycling, that is a thing. We are trying to find other solutions for plastic, for example, but there's number one problem in the world. And in my opinion, that is something that can be considered one of the stupidest invention ever. And it's amazing to see that now they're promoting my grandma's handbag again from cotton. And they call it also innovation. That's the most funny part about it. But insanity is when we try to find a solution the same way over and over, right? That's a statement that we close with. Hemant, thank you for coming here. I love you for being here, and
Thank you.
I'm looking forward for our next business call. Maybe someone in Indonesia would be interested in how to learn from your circular
Absolutely.
economy methods.
I think that would be wonderful to spend some time, engaging with some good people there, who are doing some, work, whether they are from the government or from industry or from community.
We work together. We work together with Kota Cerdas Indonesia, Smart City Indonesia. The founder of that is actually in the show. So maybe we have a big event. We could invite you to Indonesia to talk about circularity. Thank you for your time, and we're going to end it. Speak to you soon.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye.
Sama-sama.